Hi, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the ArtistWorks launch party live stream for Guthrie Trapp. As many of you know, Guthrie's been teaching with ArtistWorks for 10 years now. He launched his country guitar school back in 2015, and we are so excited that yesterday we just relaunched a completely revamped, reimagined new school with Guthrie. He came out and shot for 5 days straight, hundreds of new lessons. We're really proud to bring you the guitar styles of Guthrie Trapp. And without further ado, let's bring on the man himself.
Howdy, howdy, friends. Yeah, man, what a trip. 10 plus years working with ArtistWorks, and man, it's you guys are like family at this point.
Absolutely.
It's been pretty awesome, and yeah, starting with the country course, and then now through teaching throughout all these years. I mean, it's kind of cool to launch the guitar styles of myself because as I've developed more into a teacher, when you teach, you're a teacher. When you play, you're a player. Whatever. So when I am teaching this stuff over the years, I've learned a little bit, more on how to communicate these things. I've grown, hopefully grown a little bit as a player myself. Definitely have probably learned more than anybody on this journey because I'm having to go back and really try to find creative ways to, eloquently, hopefully eloquently, and uh, you know, as well as simply convey some of the things that I'm doing. And I always say that kind of like my lack of formal music training has proven to be a good way to teach other people because I kind of, and being a working professional lifer musician with a lot of, at this point at 46 years old, a lot of experience and, in the trenches of playing. And so to kind of shave away and, chip away all the stuff that I think might be kind of mucking up a lot of things and just get right down to the like, hey, this is what me and my friends use on a daily basis to navigate through, any musical situation in a way that kind of does zoom out and kind of, me, I like to get down to like, okay, why are we doing any of this stuff? Why are we teaching? Why are we working with pedals and amps and different guitars? But the end goal of all that is supposed to be making music. And so I think a lot of times these days, especially with so much noise on all the different platforms we're all looking at every day, YouTube, Instagram, all the things that they're right up here, I think sometimes it gets the end goal can get a little diluted and kind of fuzzy and cloudy. And so I'm the guy that I'm always wanting to zoom back out and go, hey, look, guys, let's get right back down to like, the sound of the music. Here's the chords. Here's the song. Here's a way to navigate through those changes. And that's why I love the guitar styles of Guthrie Trapp because I've been fighting for 25 years, 35 years to get away from being labeled as a country guitar player. And I just like music. I always say I love country music. It just depends on what country it's from. And so, so it's like, I just like music, man. I like a lot of different kinds, and so the way that I learned to play that changed my life when I was younger is to not think as much about theory and modes and scales and this kind of stuff. Of course, you have those, but looking at more of a chordal approach and like, okay, when the chord changes, that's really what's happening in the song is when a chord changes, you're really uh, you're acknowledging that change in any given piece of music or any situation that you're in. And so it's not as much about play this mode because if you're in that mode, then you're in that mode. It's like your car, you're in sport mode. Okay, well then we're in the next mode. But it's more about playing over the chords and navigating through, like I said, all these different kinds of music, whether it could be a classic country song, it could be a New Orleans funk groove, it could be, James Brown style something, it could be jazz, it could be a singer songwriter, it could be rock and roll. I mean, what experimental, whatever it is. But you learn to quickly, kind of go in those directions, and that's how you work as a musician. You're well rounded, and eventually, hopefully, you develop your own style from that and start making your own music, which I've kind of been focused on that for the past 10 years or whatever. But anyway, there's a little spiel out of the gate, and so
Yeah, awesome.
if anybody wants to ask any questions or anything, feel free.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, we'll dig in a little further and get into the nitty gritty of like what's in your new school. And
Yeah.
yeah, open invite to everybody here. Like, drop a comment in, let us know where you're tuning in from today. We're going to be doing question and answers. So if you got any questions for Guthrie, just drop them right there in the comments, and we'll get to as many as we can. But it goes without saying, we all want to hear you do some playing. Guthrie, you want
Oh
to kick
man.
us off here?
Yeah. As usual, I don't have anything planned or worked up. No, so my solo act is not extremely dialed in like Chet Atkins or somebody. But let's see here. So I don't know, what's something I've been working on lately. I like this little riff here. Let's see. Let's play this little riff. Let's see. Little things like that. I don't have any big solo pieces worked up for you guys or anything, but again, that's like so that might be a kind of a cool thing to talk about for a minute. Obviously there's some people that would go, oh, that sounds like country because of the attack or whatever, but I like some of these things that are kind of not so genre specific, where you've got a chord like this is obviously in the key of B, but it's not this straight B sound, or B minor, or dominant 7, or major 7. It's kind of this B, the bass note could be moving around over the, so it kind of lends the soloist to a wider palette of expression when you're not locked into that. Of course, you could play some cool little chordal rhythmic things along with that, but just kind of that I don't know what you would call that, but it's kind of a nebulous sound. You can throw flat 7 in there if you want, if I'm soloing over that. So that little riff. There's not a whole lot going on there, but it kind of puts you in this kind of like, that, not to say modal, but sort of that, bridge, and that's kind of like, I like those sounds. A lot of sus. And of course, the blues is always in there. And so just kind of an amalgamation of these different different vocabularies. And then if it goes to the 5, I love the 5 minor. So F sharp minor, G with a G with a 2 in there, so like a G9 maybe. There's a D. So a lot of these notes are they're common to the changes, right? You're not going to some drastic change. It all kind of works together, and it creates this kind of sound that's a little nebulous, but there's a vibe to some of that stuff. I love that kind of stuff. And then the whole thing with the genres, like when people go, well, what do you mean genres? You're not genre specific. You play blues and you play all this different stuff. Well, yeah, I do, and I think that there is some gray area here. Not everything's so white and black with music, and so I go, well, yeah, if something's like a straight up shuffle, if you're playing a shuffle, well, then there's a certain era of blues that you would play, and kind of pay homage to and respect to keep those forms of music intact. And the parts, there's certain parts that you play with certain styles of music that do make them authentic, and they kind of keep their integrity intact. If I'm playing a country song and it's a classic country song, well, then yeah, the guitar does a specific thing that's like appropriate for that song. But then as that stuff kind of gets a little bit less specific, then it gets fun, because you're not locked into those parameters. But as soon as you see somebody with too much gain playing blues rock on like a classic West Coast shuffle or a Chicago blues shuffle or Delta blues, you're like, yeah, well, that doesn't really fit. And you can tell that they're not really, they didn't do their homework on those specific styles. So you do have to spend some time early on, knowing how to navigate your way through some Delta blues, something like this. That's not perfect, but that's kind of an example. So yeah, you could take that kind of classic Delta blues thing and make it your own. But there are some specific things there that you definitely you kind of want to hear them if you're playing that style of music. So it's not black and white, but I feel like it does all these things that I like to teach as far as playing over the chords. I mean, I always use this chord progression as a great teaching tool. If I'm playing E, you guys have seen me do this probably a bunch of times, E to the dominant third, the A flat dominant 7, which is not a minor, because people will go, well, it needs to be a minor. That's what's in the scale. Well, no, not at all. That's a secondary dominant. And it could go to A, but I like to go to the 6 minor. So over that change, right? So 6 minor, C sharp minor, E7, A, B, E, right? But over that change, going to that becomes a secondary dominant. So that becomes like the 5 chord of the minor. So now I've got all this up the arpeggio. So there's simple ways to approach those, but those are the kinds of things that I like to teach. Really go into the sound of the chord, because if you just played, well, that's not going to work over that change. That's a strong change to that, where there's some really cool things you can do. And to do that, you have to kind of, what really changed my life was learning the chords up the neck, your inversions and the information around those. And people call that the cage system now, but it's not any new system. It's just the chord inversions up the neck, the way the guitar's been tuned since it was ever first tuned this way. And that is the thing that completely changed my life. It gave me it made this neck make sense in a way that's very concrete and not complicated and confusing. And it's not a trick or a cheating way to do it. It's simply the core fundamentals that you have to learn on the guitar if you want to be able to navigate through a bunch of these different vocabularies. And so music is a language, and so you the more you can start seeing how they're parallel with dynamics and phrasing, and if you get soft, people are going to lean in and want to hear. If you get loud, they're going to want to run away. And so there's all these little things that go into it, your right hand dynamics, your left hand, the subtleties of the pressure of those two hands. You're not just playing with one pressure all the time. You're constantly, this is your whole personality is in this right hand. I mean, it can be digging in when you need to. It can be really soft when you need it to. So just kind of zooming out and get back to some of these fundamentals of what makes music work and what makes guitar playing work. And so I'll use the house analogy. The chord is the foundation. The same notes that are in that chord are the same notes you're going to be playing with your lead guitar playing. It's just that you have to get into the mindset of understanding what that means and how simple that really is. Learn the triads. See what the difference is between an A triad, a D triad, and an E triad. There's common tones in there. Right? All this is... So that's just a little example of some of that. The only reason I can play anything is because I have a really good ear, you know, I have my ear. I can chase these melodies around, but also I know the chords and the right hand position. I mean, those are just, you have to have that, because I see so many people guessing at what note to hit, and if you know the hand position, then you're eliminating 90% of failure, because you're gonna land at the right spot if your hand is in the right position 90% of the time. If I hover over these planes of these chord shapes, my fingers are already lined up. If I'm playing a C-shaped E chord, I'm hovering. I'm not even moving. A, B, 6 minor, flat 7, root. It's all right there. So you learn knowing the hand position in the chord inversions. That will save you 10 years right there. So another tangent and rant there about some of this stuff. So I don't know how many people we got on here, but it would be great if somebody asked a question.
Man, that was fantastic. Yeah. And I'm seeing like what you were just demoing right there. That is literally what your new lessons are all about. You're
Yeah.
deconstructing and simplifying these ideas of like playing triads and arpeggios, connecting shapes. One thing that you were talking about when you were in the studio, which I thought was really interesting, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about it, is just that there's not really a difference. I think like, I don't want to paraphrase what your wording for this is, but like the fact that chords and solos are not these disconnected ideas that all
Mm-hmm.
come from the same place.
Right.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, and you know, really, you know, my job is pretty much, I'm like a guitar consultant. I'm looking at, I'm watching people play and going, okay, well, I can see where the gaps are, I can see where this is and what that is. But my job really is to rewire your brain to think a little bit differently, other than just like, okay, well, I'm thinking about chords are for chords, and rhythm, lead is for lead, and solo note and single notes, and double stops are a thing, and all this. It's really, once you get to where you can play a little bit, you're seeing it all as one thing. You're just taking, like, it's like if you took a watermelon and you chopped it up into a bunch of little bite-sized pieces. It's still a watermelon, but it's tangible. So you're taking these big chords, and like I was showing a guy earlier, you're taking a big chord, and each one of these little, each one of these little notes in there, each one of the chord tones is part of the major scale. So take the single notes, take the double stop. There's music in all those little sections, right? So really, you got to really break these chords down. I mean, you got to see the big chords, you got to break them down. So like what you were saying a minute ago, Marcus, if I'm playing, let's say if I'm in the key of, let's just take this E chord. I mean, those are melodies from a major chord and a major scale. And all I'm doing is, instead of playing the chords like this, you arpeggiate really here, and that turns into an arpeggio. And that turns into licks. I'm just messing around, but that's the idea. So when I get to this this chord shape here, you know, I'm just messing around, you know. So I'm, you know, again, just messing around here, but it starts sounding like classical music or Scottish music or something, because it's very, you know, it's pretty major, and then you've got, you know, these melodies are kind of connected. You're using a root, third, and fifth. if I was gonna go minor, you know. You know. You can hear those melodies in there. You know. So yeah, that's like, okay, you want a little bit of jazz tonalities and vocabulary and vibe, then play a little bit of chordal stuff like that. If you want the country vibe, go to the back pickup. You know. You know, so it's not so much the like, oh, I'm going to country, oh, I'm going to blues, oh, I'm going to jazz, oh, I'm going to this. It's just all kind of mixed together. The dominant seven, if I play blues, okay, well, if I take those exact same notes and I play something country, same kind of thing. It's the same notes. It's just the accent and the attitude that you put behind it. So the music that you're playing at that time, the song or whatever you're trying to say, that should come out. So it should be your personality coming out in the music. The guitar is just the instrument. To be a good guitar player does not necessarily mean that you're a good musician. It doesn't matter what instrument you play. Being a musician is yourself and knowing how to hear and you know what you know when to lay out, what dynamics you're going to use. You know what you're hearing the music. I mean, the guitar is just that's just a tool that we use that we like. You know, for whatever reason. So that's kind of how I like to think about this stuff. So it's not about licks or anything like that. It's just about navigating through the music. You know.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's really sort of what I noticed is like the common thread through all of the new curriculum is that all these ideas sort of apply to whatever it is that you want to get out of the guitar. Really, it's just kind of helping you find the voice that you're looking for, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. This guitar doesn't do anything unless you tell it what to do. Like, and don't forget, you can't make a mistake if you don't play anything. You know. So if you're on the bandstand and there's three other guitar players, chances are I'm gonna turn my volume down and step back and let it be a trio for a minute. And then if it's my turn to take a solo or add something, if it's possible to do that, then I might step in. But for the most part, I'm not going to feel like it's like a harmonica player that once it gets up here, they don't know how to take it out of their mouth because they're afraid of what they look like on stage, or somebody at karaoke that doesn't know what to do with the microphone. You know, oh, what do I do with this microphone? Well, just because you're on stage with the guitar in your hands, I'm happy to take my hands completely off of it and just step to the back, and because that's what the music needs at that point. It doesn't need another guy up there going. There's already three other guys doing that, you know. So those kind of things are that's experience, you know.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, hey, we've got a bunch of really great questions. So thank you, everybody that's posting questions. Why don't we jump into some of that stuff now? And if you have a question you haven't asked it yet, feel free to just drop it in the comments.
Yeah.
So I'll pitch these to you.
Oh, dude,
Let's,
am I not seeing can I see the?
yeah, I think you can pull up comments and they kind of zip by. I kind of just, I'll
I'm
curate
not.
these for you
I,
to
I'm
save you having to dig, but
okay. I'm not seeing how many people we have on here. Is there a number that we can share? I don't. Maybe we don't need to advertise that to the public. There's 15,000 people on here right now.
that's right. Yeah. On the money.
It's incredible. Oh, we just got 15,001. Okay,
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
awesome. We're growing.
You are seeing it then.
Okay, perfect, awesome.
Nice. Well, let's start. I've been kind of like flagging these since the beginning of the show, so let's just kind of go in order to make sure everyone gets heard.
Okay, great.
First, let's.
I was stuck on I was on the private chat window, and it says there's only 3 people on there,
Oh yeah, yeah.
maybe there is.
We're two of them right here.
We're two. Yeah,
Hi, Neil. Neil's
exactly.
our backup.
I just learned something. All right.
All right. Well, here's one from George. It says, how many hours a day on average does Guthrie play his guitar and any other instruments?
I'm so sorry. You know what? I think I've got my messages turned on my laptop. So if you hear these pinging noises, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to try to figure out how to turn that off right now. So sorry, guys. Okay, can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. How many hours a day on average do you play your guitar? And are there any other instruments that you're playing regularly?
Oh, I see it down here now. Man, you know what? Here's the sad news is I'll go days without playing the guitar. You know, these days I don't pick it up and practice 8 hours a day like some people do. When I do sit down and play it, it's usually in the evening or first thing in the morning. Uh, and you know, I do some these days. Of course, we're all doing some videos and social media stuff, and I'm teaching a good bit, so I'll play and kind of I'll use that as an opportunity to get warmed up and to play a little bit. These days, I'm just trying to keep my hands in shape. You know, I'm having some trouble with my first finger, which I don't like to talk about a whole lot because nobody wants to, you know, lead on that they're not running at 150% like I always have. But my fingers been a little not closing all the way, which is it's not slowing me down too much, but it is something that I'm trying to kind of warm up and all that kind of stuff. But the short answer to that is, man, not every day. I don't play the guitar every day, and man, I definitely don't practice like a lot of people do. If I hear something that I like in the car, I listen to a lot of music in the car, so if I hear something I like, I try to learn it or at least steal the idea. Like I'm not going to sit down and try to transcribe a whole Wes Montgomery solo like I would when I was 13 years old. But I would maybe take one cool lick out of there that's easy, man. We've got to make it easy on ourselves. You can't eat an elephant at one sitting, so we need to take these small bites and just things that we can use. You know, let's learn some things we can use immediately. You know, rather than obsessing over this, like learning this solo. We have to be practical about what the application of what we're doing is gonna the end result. Like I said earlier, like if you're working, like for me, I work with the trio a lot with my trio, and I do the guitar party stuff with Jed and Tom Bukovac and those guys. So I'm not going to go learn a bunch of jazz standards because I'm not ever going to play them. And so there's that kind of stuff. But I do like to play the mandolin, and I've been getting that back out a little bit more lately. And I love playing acoustic guitar. And so I hope that wasn't a 3-hour answer there. But hey, guys, thanks so much for watching. I was on the wrong window and didn't think there was anybody on here. So thanks a bunch for the comments.
Awesome. All right, here's one from Jeffrey. And I think this was in response to your playing right at the kickoff, asking for some pointers on hybrid picking.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, man. There's a lot of people that are always asking about that. I just, for some reason, when I was a lot younger, some guys from New York turned me on to Danny Gatton. Of course, we all go through our phases of Stevie Ray Vaughan and Danny Gatton and all the guys. We know we're never going to sound just like them, but when you're younger, you're like, oh God, I got to get this stuff down. So I learned a lot off of his very first video that he did. Not the Strictly Rhythm one, but the other one. So I learned a lot off that video. And so he would do this thing where he would just, if you were doing this kind of stuff for like the blues, if you're going, you know, that's with a pick. You add in the finger, you know, front pickup. And it gives it more of a, it's a staccato kind of attack. And so that's a good thing to do. Just start adding it in. And then he would also do, man, I'm so sorry. I hope you're not hearing that ding. Anyway, so if I'm in E, I might just take, or if it's too much to do that, just roll on this one. You know. So that's one idea. But mine are, I don't do a lot of flailing around like this. My attack, I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with my right hand technique at this point and the position of it. I don't hold the pick weird or do any kind of weird stuff. Like I got lucky and like I have a pretty normal right hand. It's pretty efficient, I will say. So this, you're not gonna see a lot of this. It's gonna be all right. It's right there. It's almost like it's not even. That's all three fingers. So I'm just plucking those like a piano. So there's a bunch of different ways you can use your fingers. If it's double stops, I'm using the pick and these two fingers. And man, it's not something you can explain easy. You just kind of got to jump in there and start doing it. But the double stops are all, they're all coming out of chords, right? So I definitely recommend the double stops. And it doesn't really matter what pickup you're on. I mean, I'll use this. You know. But yeah, you just kind of got to jump in and start doing it. It's got to be awkward at first, but you know, and of course, if we had more time here, I could dive into really breaking this stuff down super specifically to exactly what's going on there. But because there's a lot of muting and stuff that's happening, you know, to get the really country attack, the real, you know. That's all just kind of muting, and that's more the attitude of it, of the execution, more it is than any kind of theory or anything like that. But man, I hope that helps at all. But you kind of just got to jump in.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, just a reminder that you do have lessons on this. And so,
oh yeah,
you know, if you wanted to get deep on this, this is a perfect opportunity to check out ArtistWorks, because it's not just one-way lessons. You can actually dig in and then show Guthrie how you're doing it, and he can give you some direct pointers, which is really helpful.
Yeah. I forget that we're trying to sell this school, but I'm joking, of course. But you know, really, it's funny that you say that, because the video exchanges, I've had guys that I'm still working with on video exchanges that have literally, I've been doing it back and forth for 10 or 11 years, you know? And so, it's a pretty cool back and forth. I mean, and even with the country school that we've had in the past, I would get guys that were, only a few of them really wanted country specifically. I have had guys that wanted acoustic guitar stuff. They wanted blues. They wanted jazz changes. They wanted mandolin. I've had one guy that wanted mandolin at some point. And so it's just, it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, you can ask me anything you want is basically what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And what's so cool about that too is that, like, yeah, when you're working with someone for like 10 years, they've got this whole track record of the first video they ever submitted too. So like just from a
Right.
personal like growth level, it's really awesome to be able to like track your progress that way over the years too.
Totally.
Super cool.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Well, cool. Here's another one. And this is a pretty open-ended, but I'll try and connect two of these questions because they're kind of on the same vein. But
Okay.
Zach asks about how to get more confident improvising over chord progressions. Are there any sort of key milestones to reaching a level where you're not just feeling like you're playing scales over everything? And I'll tie that also to this other question here, which is just asking what are some of your favorite progressions to play over?
Yeah. That's a great question. And I will say the first thing I want to say here is don't try to bite off more than you can chew. There's chord progressions out there that your ear and mine are not ready for yet. You know, your ear has to develop like anything else. Think about your taste buds. You know, you might have hated green peppers and broccoli when you were little, and or tomatoes and onions when you were little, and then now you love them. You know, I know that's a bizarre example, but when I was 10 years old, I wasn't ready for John Schofield. Now I love him. You know, your ear has to be exposed to these new kinds of music, these new more sophisticated sounds. Like if you're, and I don't crucify me for this, guys, but if you just stop at classic rock 105 in Tampa, Florida, you know, you're not really exposing yourself to a lot of different kinds of music that's going to help you with that ear. You know, I was very lucky as a youngster to be exposed to like a lot of bluegrass, some jazz, you know, good rock and roll, blues, New Orleans funk and jazz, and West Coast jump blues, swing music. I did the deep dive into these like required listenings, you know, like Charlie Christian, T-Bone Walker, Hollywood Fats, Junior Watson. You know, now I'm friends with Billy Gibbons, ZZ Top. You know, listen to some like these guys are like, you know, Mark Knopfler, David Gilmour. Listening to some guys that like really moved me and made the hair stand up on my arms when I was a kid. Tony Rice, you know, Jerry Douglas, Sam Bush. Doesn't have to be guitar. I listen to a lot of Cuban and Latin piano players and rhythm sections and drum, percussion, bass. You know, a lot of the West African guitar players. You know, all this. A lot of African influence kind of triad stuff, you know. But the thing is really try to hear the changes in a simple song. So this is a great. I've got this in a million lessons, but this chord change is so great because it's basically E, A, B, and E, but I'm putting this little recurring chord relationship in the middle of it. So it's going to go E to the 3 dominant 7, 6 minor, C sharp minor to the 1 7, E7, A, B, E. Well, the thing about that is you could play this chord progression very simply. So to answer the other question is I like playing chord progressions that I'm comfortable with for the most part. Unless, you know, I'm working with Uncle Larry and he comes up with something on the fly and he'll go, all right, B flat, okay, B flat. And then he'll go, okay, F sharp. And he's throwing chords at you on the fly and you're jumping in there to do it. And that's fun, of course. It's like a flashcard test. But if I'm sitting in with a band or on a session or something, we all need to know what's coming because what you play over one chord, it's really leading to the next chord. You got to know what's coming next. If I'm in A and it goes to E, but I don't know that's coming or how long it stays there, well, then I can't play anything confidently because everything I'm playing, it's leading towards the resolve or the tension of going to the next chord. So if I don't know the chord progression, I'm a beginner at that point because I have no idea where I'm going. And so I like to play over chord progressions that I can play confidently over. I know that's kind of a crazy answer, but that's what I'm thinking. I mean, even little stuff like that. One of my favorite chord progressions is that old Nodding Hillbilly song where he goes, you know, the rhythm to that's really weird. The bass is going like, it's a great song though. You got to hear that Railroad Work song by the Notting Hillbillies, Mark Knopfler and all those guys. But just that progression, and it cycles at the end of the song. They jam on that, right? That's just the 6 minor, C sharp minor, B to E. But well, uh, that's terrible, but you get the idea. Just it could be 3 chords, it could be 2 chords, but it has to have some feel there, right? I love this. I love this change. D minor or any minor chord. D minor, A minor, G minor. Check this out. That's fun. That's super fun to jam on. D minor works over that all day long. So things like that, things that you can kind of cruise on. I don't want to be thrown giant steps by some 25-year-old jazz whippersnapper that's going to expect me to blow on some crazy jazz changes, man. I'm good. I want to play something soulful with a cool change that's not something super. I need something a little bit more than just one chord or something. Make it interesting. Give it a good groove. Give it a nice soulful, expressive change. But I hope that helps with that question. That's the long. There's no short answers with me, man. I'm sorry, guys. Thanks.
Oh no, that's perfect. In fact, that's a great opportunity for me to just let everybody know that in your school you cut a bunch of awesome backing tracks in a real Nashville studio with real session guys, like your trio, right? Like, so it's like sitting in the band.
We're not very good with computers, so the only thing we know how to do is call real musicians and go to the studio and cut them,
Love it.
But
yeah,
it gives them some life. We kind of went overboard on some of these, and we added percussion and just some nice dynamics and things to make them. We just wanted to give the backing tracks some life,
Yeah. Well, it's a great template for people to practice, like working on all these ideas over different sounds, different changes, and different vibes altogether. I mean, you covered a lot of different genres in this new offering. So
yeah, we've got a lot of different feels on these backing tracks. I mean, there's all kinds of there's some swing feels, like there's some stuff like that. There's some R&B stuff. There's some stuff like there's a couple little rumbas. Some of those 2 chord things I love. I call them the recurring chord relationships, where you're just playing one. Those are great for soloing because there's so many things you can do with just 2 chords. Over the 5 chord, you can. There's so many cool things you can do with just 2 chords, and that's the kind of stuff I like to do. Really break this stuff back down to the fact that music does not need to be complicated. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that you need to memorize every single note on the fingerboard. I'm not going to tell you that you need to know all this complex music theory, the circle of fifths, all these things that I would fail miserably on if I was tested. But it's your ear and a basic knowledge of the guitar fingerboard, and I that's a pretty that's a light way to say it. There's a lot to it, of course, but that's all you need. You need a roadmap and you need some direction with your ear, and that's what music is.
Yeah, that's great. In fact, that almost answers this other question here from JHMK. When playing lead over chord changes, how do you visualize the fretboard to target the right notes? And that's pretty much the entire roadmap of your method, right? You're getting that confidence.
Yeah. So again, you really gotta kind of like figure out how to take what you already think music, about music, or that you've learned from somebody else. I don't know. I'm not discrediting any other people, but the thing about ArtistWorks and I'm assuming this is across the board with all your instructors at this point. There's a bunch of new ones that I'm not as aware of, but I mean, guys like Brian Sutton and myself and Sierra Hall and we're lifer musicians. We've been playing these instruments since we were little kids. And I've never had another job doing anything. I mean, I've spent a lot of time on this instrument. I should be so much better than I am at this point. But I have logged a lot of time in a lot of different situations, playing live and in the studio and in all these different scenarios. And that's the ArtistWorks thing. It's like, man, if you're going to learn from somebody that first of all, you like their playing. Secondly, they have some experience in the real world. And so that's a huge thing, man. I mean, because like I said earlier, I'm trimming the fat away from all the things that you could waste your whole life trying to make music. And if you just had one person tell you like, hey man, you don't need that. Don't worry about that stuff. Just go over here and just do this and trust me. But so with my approach to this stuff, and it's nothing new. I mean, this not only is it nothing new, it's actually the most concrete fundamentals that exist on the instrument. I mean, it's really, that's what I'm saying. You got to kind of flush out your brain and look at this in a whole new way of like, hey man, look, the sounds are right here. Without the chord, you got nothing. So you play a chord. Okay, well, that's the sound that you're receiving. And so the notes that you play to accompany that are going to be the same notes that make up that chord. It's like if somebody brings up a topic about cars and you start talking about, elephants, you're not on the same page. So in the key of E major, I'm going to start talking in E major. That's E major. So the same note, there's only 3 notes in any of these big giant chords up the fingerboard. There's 3 notes. There's a G sharp or an A flat, an E, and a B. And every one of these big giant chord shapes, they're just repeating those notes in an E major chord. So the major scale, yeah, you've got these notes. But I have a little trick. I call it the phrasing trick. So it's like, how do we get off the hamster wheel of the major scale? Okay, I know the major scale, but it doesn't sound like music. How do I get away from there? Well, stop. You have to be willing to stop playing and land on a note and be confident, because otherwise you sound like me talking. It's just one run-on sentence after the next until you try to get your crazy thought out there, right? But here's the thing. Phrasing trick. Proper chord hand position. Okay, we're going to use all the notes, but 3 notes at a time, getting up to the chord tones, right? Here's the first one. Back down. We're not using the natural 7 in the scale because it's not a chord resolve tone. Right? Go to the A shape. Same exact thing. Oh, shh. Sorry, I'm looking at the screen, not looking at my hand. But anyway, you get the idea. Go to the G shape. Go to minor. Let's go to A minor. It works every time. D minor. It's just a melodic way of playing that always lands you at the right spot. I don't want to play anything that's weird just for the sake of being weird, you know. That doesn't sound good to me. I take this note out of the major scale, a minor scale, you know, because listen what that note sounds like in the chord compared to this. Okay, now watch. I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't sound good to me. To me. So I take that note out for the most part, and I'll show you where that note fits in. It's over the 5 chord in a minor key. So if I'm playing E7 and I'll raise that, then it becomes diminished. Okay, there's a little theory, but that's practical, right? So okay, that note. Note works great there, but not. So that's the thing. If somebody teaches you a minor scale at Berkeley and you think you can use that for the rest of your life over every minor chord without listening, then you might not get hired to play. If you don't know how to make the right, you don't have the right instincts and to be able to hear that that might not be the right choice, even though it says in the book that that's the note of that scale, that's where this all meets where the rubber meets the road right there, in my opinion, guys.
That's great. Yeah. And I know that like you went into a whole thing in your lessons too about sort of breaking out of pentatonic prison, where a lot of people kind of end their soloing journey just with some basic facility.
Yeah, right. Well, it's just like taking that when you take that A minor chord and you add the minor 9 to it by just adding that B note. Well, like I said, I like that sound of that chord way better than just a plain A minor. I'm not going to use it all the time. I might just use this. You might just use it like that. But when you take that sound and you add that to the pentatonic scale, now you add the 2, you add the B there, the B there, and the B there, then you get this. Right? Go to D minor. A minor. E7, you can't do this. That doesn't work. You gotta. So there's a few little tricks. You know, there's no rules, but your ear is the final judge. Let's just put it that way. in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you were saying, I mean, it all just comes back to sounding good, right? We're making music at the end of the day, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like to me, it's like, okay, I'm a terrible cook and an even worse golfer, and so like it's not my job to sit here and try to make somebody feel insignificant on the guitar, because there's plenty of people that can make me feel very insignificant on the guitar. But if I equate all this stuff to like cooking or trying to hit a golf ball or something like that, you know, it would be like me memorizing a bunch of recipes but not having never cooking anything, or it would be like trying to cook without having any taste buds, or it would be like chopping everything up perfectly with the proper knives and all the right stuff, and everything looks perfectly prepared, but you know, 3 hours later, your guests are going, man, we're starving. Is there ever going to be any food? Well, man, I know how to prepare all this stuff, but I don't know how to cook anything. Or you do cook something and it's terrible because you're obsessing over the wrong parts. It's like, let's just get to it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there. And my job is to just help you shave away 10 or 15 or 20 years of going down the dark path of thinking that modes are going to work or scales are going to work. And it's not that stuff is bad or wrong. It's not that at all. It's just the mindset of how you approach this stuff. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, great advice. Well, Guthrie, thank you so much for being here today and
Thanks
sharing all
everybody.
this great insight.
Of course, man. Always a pleasure. And me and Marcus have been knowing each other for probably going on 11 years. I will say, I'm sorry if you're hearing the ding from my iMessages. I lost my iPhone a long time ago, and I had to turn messages on my computer. And, of course, I can't figure out how to turn it off. But guys, look, everybody that joined us today, I don't know how many people were on here, but I really appreciate it. Always, thanks so much for all the support. You're helping us stay motivated, inspired, and honestly, we're not hiding anything here. You're also helping us make a good living doing this, you know. So we appreciate it.
Yeah. So please check out the guitar styles of Guthrie Trapp at ArtistWorks. You know, brand new curriculum, all new backing tracks, multi-style, and of course, video exchange technology where you can send videos to Guthrie and get videos back from Guthrie with personal training.
Right, and not only my brand new school, and thanks for using mine first to kick things off, but I will say that, and I think I can say this freely, is that the entire ArtistWorks platform and website and everything has been completely refurbished. Right, I mean it's a complete overhaul of the entire platform.
That's right. Yeah. So ArtistWorks has been going for about 15 years. And this is the first time we completely rebuilt the tech stack from the ground up to completely modernize everything. So everything's mobile friendly now, a lot faster page loads. If you were an ArtistWorks student at some point and you haven't been around for a while, certainly welcome and come back, check it out. Anybody that wants to just check it out for a little bit, you can get a free 7-day trial to any of the schools. So yeah, encourage you to check it out. There's different instruments, different genres. And of course, Guthrie's awesome new school. So we hope to see you on there. It's an awesome community of people just all there with the same purpose, which is just to make some music and get better at what we do.
Yeah,
be around people that share that interest.
Totally. And I promise not to talk so much on my video exchange video exchanges that we do. I'll keep those more informative and more playing. Of course, I'm joking, but yeah, man. Look, guys, it's a pleasure to be on ArtistWorks with all these amazing teachers. A lot of them are I'm fans of. You know, like I mentioned, like Mike Marshall and a lot of these guys. I've been seeing their name on records, you know, for a long time. And man, I'm living the dream. You know, to be able to make music with my good friends and be on the same short list as people like that with a company like this, man, I'm thrilled. So again, thanks a bunch. Always happy to help, and come find me. I'm lucky my name's very easy to find. Maybe that's a bad thing, but you know, come check out the YouTube channel and the Instagram and all that stuff. Of course, we're trying to promote everything. It all funnels back to this stuff we're doing. So check it out.
Awesome. Thanks again, Guthrie. We'll see you around the campus, as we say. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We'll see you on the next one.
All right. See you guys.